This episode is brought to you by Flip Savvy. More on them later. I'm Milton Ali.
And I'm Hampton Scurlock.
And we want to welcome you to the Investor Tribe Podcast. I think we did an episode when we first started the pod, and we talked about how we lost $80,000 so that you don't have to. And one of the things that we were talking about at that time was different contracting mistakes. Like, we're also joking about how this guy had lost their fourth grandma or third parent in the last 6 months as an excuse to get out of doing work, right?
That put us way behind, and we're not heartless people.
It put us horrifically behind. Today we're going to talk about some nasty tricks.
Sometimes performed by tenants, and we wanted to preface this by saying not all tenants or people are going to perform these tricks. We're not advocating anyone perform these tricks. We're just kind of showing that so you can recognize them and how to deal with them, how to diffuse them or spot them before you get too far down the road and you get taken advantage of, which unfortunately happens.
That's correct. Today's pod is about the 10 nasty tricks that tenants play on landlords. Number 1.
The old fake repair emergency.
Oh my gosh. So the tenant is going to report or exaggerate or fabricate a repair issue to delay rent or to avoid eviction. And that happens literally all the time.
You hear from a lot of landlords. I've seen it firsthand. Sometimes, and again, we're saying not all tenants are doing this, but there's sometimes that people get in a bad situation or they've been taught, or they're just trying to abuse the system and looking to get one over on a landlord. Sometimes there could be a emergency that they think, warrants an emergency. Other times it's not a big repair, or it may not even be a real repair at all.
Hampton, you didn't repair the light bulb, so I'm going to hold back the rent.
I've heard that before, and then our lease says you repair the light bulb, you replace the light bulbs. Kind of little common sense things, but and also refer back to your local landlord tenant laws for your state. So what we're saying here may not apply in other states. We're talking just general terms. We're not giving legal advice, investment advice. We're not telling you how to deal with squatters. It varies from state to state. So consult an attorney, do your research, read your local laws before you take these matters.
And we also have some things that we're gonna, and you get to tell us. Leave in the comments whether you think that's just a yellow flag, whether it's just like a penalty point, or if it's a red flag, right? Which is just unacceptable, right? And you might think all 10 of these are unacceptable. So how do you avoid that?
With the fake emergency repairs, right, you want to get them to send you a picture of what needs to be repaired, describe it, get a written record of it, and then address it quickly and keep a record of it. If there's an actual repair there, we've had a case where someone said, "Oh, my toilet's broken. We only have one bathroom. That's an emergency." Asked for a picture. They said, "Oh, well, it's just broken."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it turns out what was broken was the top of the back of the tank. A kid had just they'd broken the back of the tank, so the toilet still functioned and worked fine, but the tenant had caused some damage, possibly purposely to not pay rent or to say it was a emergency repair. But
in order to withhold from rent. And it's any type of thing when you're going through it that can be a problem. Always have great property management or keep very good records so that if you're ever in a situation where it turns into a courtroom or a legal issue, you have documentation. I think that's what we're trying to communicate, is document everything when it comes to that, when it comes to how you care for your rental property. Document every repair, document every instance where you send a professional out to the house. Keep all of your receipts. It is super important. Let's move on to number 2. Oh, is that a yellow or a red?
I'd say go either way. It could be a yellow. It's my vote.
You think it's a yellow?
Okay. For now, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Number actually weight it more towards the center.
Oh, we got to do it like this. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, yeah, so there you go. So here's the thing. The professional tenant. Hi, I'm John Doe. What do you do for a living? I'm a professional tenant. I'm professional. You know what a professional tenant is?
I've seen some. I've heard horror stories from landlords.
Yeah.
But how do you know they're a professional tenant? And how do you screen against that or protect yourself is the big question. Well, I guess also it's important to know, what is a professional tenant?
So I think what I heard, coming up in the business was this is a career tenant. And I used to ask, like, what is a career tenant? Like, what does even that mean? Like you're a career electrician, you're a career, like you have a career, it's just as a tenant. These types of individuals are so versed in tenant laws, and they use that knowledge to exploit inexperienced landlords.
Sometimes exploit or just game the system. You hear some stories of a professional landlord, professional tenant goes to a landlord and said, hey, here's the first month's rent or deposit, and they'll move in, but then the check bounces. So now you've got no money that has come in. You may have actually gone negative because you have fees to try to recoup that, and you haven't really received any money yet. And this person may or may not ever pay you again, and you can be taking weeks or months to get them out through the eviction process.
And they got a place to stay for 3 months.
Oh, they're staying in your place. And
they're staying at your place.
They're not worried about losing a deposit because they didn't pay you a deposit.
They didn't pay the deposit. The check bounced, and they didn't pay rent because of the first reason, because of something they broke. So make sure the check clears, or don't take checks when you're moving somebody in, and even then be leery of them in over time, because stuff happens. People don't just keep the best bookkeeping, or they decide to pay somebody else before they pay their their rent bill, and the check may not be any good. So I know we've had other landlords on the guests as guests here, and they say they've got you got to pay online, cashier's check, money order, especially anybody that's ever had a criminal history with bad checks or fraudulent checks or theft by deception. Then they say, well, you're on a cash only or no check, your approval as long as we don't take checks from you. That's it. And so just to your point, you have to, if you're going to be a landlord, learn how to run really great background checks, court history, use a well-drafted lease reviewed by a real estate attorney. We have several ones that are in the tribe that you can go to, that you can really review the lease and make sure that it protects both you and your tenant.
And even on the application, I know Mike Butler was one of our guests, and he wrote the book on landlording, landlording on autopilot.
Yes.
And he talks about he puts on his applications, who is your attorney? And it's a question to look for some information, because if they don't have an attorney, never dealt with an attorney, then if they're telling you the truth, they're probably not a professional tenant. But if they say, they list 2 different attorneys, or their attorney, and they say, how do you know Mr. Shapiro? That Jim has represented me on lots of cases over the years. You're like, oh goodness, well Jim has litigated, this tenant is sue happy, and I don't want to be anywhere near this person when they've got too much time on their hands and they decide to sue me if we need to evict them for somebody, or we try to raise the rent 2 years from now to get up to market rent, and they're going to want to go crazy and scorched earth, because they don't think it's right that they're paying market rates, or that the prices have changed, and we're trying to adapt for it.
Right. And you know what? There is so many different ways of people that's trying to just get over on landlords. And I think, and it kind of, upsets me a little bit, because quite frankly, I mean, I'm upset with how the game is played. That's why I hire property management. Bottom line. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's super important to be able to do just that, We want to shout out our socials, right? You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and you can find us at INV Tribe on everything. That's INV Tribe on everything. Back to the show.
All right.
So number 3. Oh, what was the flag? There.
Oh goodness!
I think
the professional that's a big red flag.
That's a big
Just
red flag.
stay
man.
far away.
Stay away.
Check. Do the background checks. Check
That's
their
right.
rental history. Contact the previous landlords. Make sure that who you're contacting is actually the previous landlord, not their friend or sister or family member. So there's different ways you can do that or check on that as well. But yeah, just avoid those professional tenants because it will just make your hair turn white and stress you out. Quite a bit.
I know. That's how my hair is white.
Oh, is it?
That's how my hair is white.
Okay. I
mean,
didn't notice.
Hanging out with y'all and
real estate.
Yeah, hanging out with.
Well, you are 24 years old now. Real estate.
Yeah, I'm 24. And literally, man. I mean, but real estate sometimes can be stressful in that way. And you know what else is a stressful thing is that when someone doesn't pay their rent. Like I had a tenant that, so I had a tenant didn't want to, or they were trying to pay their rent, but they were having job issues, okay? And I thought that they were just trying to stretch the time they were living there for free because every month we will put in a letter of eviction. When you don't pay on the 2nd, the letter of eviction goes out. No questions asked until you pay. And that's important because some people use what is called as the rent stretch scheme, where they're out here trying to live. They pay partial rent, okay? Or they pay their rent late and they pay a late fee but don't pay all your late fee. So it's a partial payment still, right?
Gotcha.
I had a lease on I inherited this, okay? So don't be coming for me. Tribe, don't come for me because I did not write this lease. I inherited it, okay? And so I had this tenant where literally every day they were late was $30. When they were late, $30. And after several months, I think I was on the phone with a real estate attorney, and he was like, I don't think that's a good idea, Milton. I think you need to change the terms. I was like, why? Because they're paying me. He was like, because a judge is going to look at you crazy.
You got to be fair and reasonable.
Yeah, you got to be fair and got to be reasonable.
And
but the late fee literally was going to be more than the rent after several days. I mean, that would just be bad, right?
Well, there's that balancing act that if you don't have any penalties in there, they're going to pay someone else that has penalties that hurts more.
That's true.
Because so you'd be last to be paid. So
and your housing is the most important thing.
Yeah, you need a roof over your head. You need shelter.
You do need a roof over your head. I mean, nothing else matters if you don't pay your rent, right? And so how to avoid, all of that with people giving excuses month after month after month after month. Like, how do you avoid all that?
Yeah, document everything. You talk about sending the eviction or the late notices.
Right.
Sometimes you can even you could reject payment, refuse payment. Say, hey, if you don't pay in full, I'm not gonna because if you accept payment in many states, you've got to restart that eviction clause.
I remember you telling me that. I remember when I first started out, you were like, "Look, if you take that payment, then you're
starting the clock over.
You're starting the clock over, and you can't really make any moves. So why did you waste the time paying for the 7-day letter or getting all that stuff started when you accepted payment?" And I was like, darn it.
and that kind of leads into something else. The tenants, sometimes there's the rent stretch game. Sometimes it's life things happening. Other times it's, they were late one month and not, penalized, or they heard from one of their friends, you just have to pay your rent in the month that it's due. No, it's what's in the lease, not what someone's friend says or thinks.
Big time.
We've had tenants say, well, why am I paying my June rent on June 1st? I haven't even used the house yet. Because that's what's in the lease, and you pay in advance. It's not, you don't pay it at the end or after it's done, because then what would we do if you didn't pay? It's
right. Right. And so I do think that there is another one, and this is not, this is something where somebody's running another business out of your house. Now, look, if you're, like, there's legit uses for when you're renting out a property.
What's this called? What's this strategy called? I like it.
Oh, man. The sublet shuffle. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a sublet shuffle here. And I think, I mean, that's not a dance. It's not a dance. It's not trending. It's not on TikTok. But it's the sublet shuffle. And
do the shuffle. Maybe it's trending now. We're going to start something.
Yeah. And so the sublet shuffle. So basically, the tenant is secretly subletting the property on short-term rental sites without permission. So they're literally Airbnb-ing your house, or they're running some other illicit type of dynamics going on within that house. I think you had a tenant that was just like doing all kinds of crazy stuff that was kind of caught up, but he paid his rent though.
Yeah, he paid his rent.
See, I like that.
He had his priorities straight.
He was in jail but he still paid his rent.
He did.
See, I love that.
And and other things that go on. Not only is it Airbnb something or doing something with your property you don't know about, but they're moving other people in, maybe family or friends, and they're could be, I hate to call it running a boarding house or rooming house, but you need to know who's in your property and approve those people, because you never know who your tenants are going to bring in. So you need to nip that in the butt when you see it. And not only people, sometimes it's animals. We've seen tenants, I don't know how many times I've heard, well, that's not my dog, I'm just dog sitting. And the dog is there every time you go there, every time for the next 3 months, 4 months, and they're not dog sitting. They still want to pay a dog fee.
Dog sitting.
Yeah, or it's really their dog.
It's a long-term dog.
You look at the tag; it's got their name and address on it. We know it's their dog.
Right. You look at the dog tag, and it literally has the address of your resident.
You see pictures of the family with the dog. That's the dog.
On social media.
It's
yes.
You turn into pet detective, and you find out that that's the dog. You got to pay the pet rent, or the dog's got to go, or while we playing these games. But yes, the sublet shuffle, dogs, people.
Oh yeah, I definitely like that. And you know what? Here's the thing. So we need to we're going to bring on a real estate attorney back to the pod, and we're going to talk about like adding a strict no subletting clause, no Airbnb clause, monitor online listings, and conduct scheduled inspections. And
have a pet policy.
Shut that down. Yeah,
have a pet policy. You know what pet's there, and approve. There were some cases several years ago where landlords, for some reason, were liable for a tenant's dog getting out and biting somebody, even though the landlord had no knowledge and had no pet policy.
That a pet was there.
But when people go to sue, they go after insurance, they go whoever thinks going to give them money, and they end up changing some laws in Kentucky to prevent that. But there's still some breeds of animals where your insurance won't cover. So you may even exclude certain breeds if you don't exclude certain animals altogether. And we're not talking service animals. That's something different. We're not even going there for this, for this episode.
Right. And I had a tenant where literally I asked, like, hey, do you have any pets? And they're like, no. And you go there and you smell the dog.
Noah's Ark.
Smell the dog.
Or the ferrets, or the parrots.
Yeah, or the oh my gosh. I think you had a rental with ferrets, didn't you?
We did. The surprise ferrets. They weren't on the lease. They didn't ask. They just.
How do you have surprise ferrets, bruh?
They weren't. They weren't there. They'd actually rented from us, and then they knew they had the one dog policy, and they had one dog, but then they
had two ferrets,
3 partridges in a pear tree. They kept adding new more stuff.
They kept adding levels and levels and levels and all that, and so that's crazy. You know what? What flag is that? Is that that's literally red flag, man. I mean, that's just can't do it. It's red flag. It's not going to work. Okay.
And sometimes it's not. There's many reasons. Landlords aren't necessarily all heartless, but sometimes there's reasons. Hey, if you've got a 4-plex or an 8-plex, and everybody's right there together, you don't want to have. There may not be a yard for the dog to be able to stretch his legs to go to the bathroom. They don't want to pin up on top of other people and barking all day and keeping people's kids, awake. So one dog has a lot of problems across, a whole bunch housing of issues, complex. Yes.
And so, let's go ahead and talk about a sponsor here. Managing real estate can be complicated. Get one thing off your plate and contact our good friends at Liberty Mutual. You can give them a call today. 1-800-266-0644 and mention Milton Ali KY 444689 for your free quote today. All right. So I know, have you ever been emotionally manipulated?
Yes, I've got a wife and 2 daughters. But you're talking about with contractors or tenants or what
I'm going to let you live with that.
They're not here. They're not here.
Keep that in the pod because that will live forever. And next time I see the family, I'm going to show it. I'm going to be like, hey, you want to see our next podcast? the 10 nasty tricks your family plays on your real estate, on your real estate investor husband. So literally,
or
man,
father, yeah,
or
yeah,
father,
yeah.
right? You know, because my daughter do me the same way. But it's the emotional black card game, man. Come on now, or the emotional blackmail card, which is still a nasty trick that folks do. So they appeal to your sympathy to avoid paying rent or facing consequences. And, here's the thing. If you're a landlord, you don't ever introduce yourself as the owner. Don't ever introduce yourself if you are managing your own property. Just don't introduce yourself as the owner. You're the manager, which is technically true. You're the manager, you're the person who's in charge, you're the contact person, but you do not introduce yourself as the manager. And it doesn't allow you to be emotionally taken and for people to try to gather sympathy, because some people will try to milk that for whatever it's worth. So be very careful.
And so, why exactly would you do that? I know it can put a buffer between, you and now you've got a decision maker. You've got to talk to the owner before, when they ask you if they can put a hot tub in the kitchen. It's a horrible idea. And rather than shoot down right there, you say, I need to go talk back and have a meeting with the owner, and we'll get back to you on this. And then you can let them know later, hey, we had a meeting. We can't do the hot tub in the, in the kitchen. But you ask about the garden on the back deck. Yeah, if you put a container there, you can do that, but no hot tub, kind of thing.
Right. It's so important to be empathetic but firm, right? Don't let people know who you are if you are indeed the owner, and offer other types of resources. Your obligation when you are dealing with tenants is to provide a really quality product for your tenants to stay in, and also to uphold the lease terms. What did the lease say? Okay, the lease said that you cannot build upon the house. The lease says you can paint. Great, go for it. You want to paint the purple? Okay, I don't care. It's in the lease terms. Uphold your lease terms. If there's some ambiguity, that's why we want you to talk to a lawyer about any type of ambiguities that might be in the lease terms. And I hope that makes sense,
It does. And, tenants are people too, and we're people, and most landlords and most tenants are, good people and caring and respectful of each other. But sometimes and bad things happen to people, and, people pass away, people lose jobs, they have financial hardships. And sometimes it is difficult for them to pay the rent on time and stick to everything was agreed. But sometimes you can look at those I hate to say, look at those situations where you can solve a problem or provide value some way. I know we've had tenants before that that legitimately they've had a family member pass away. They didn't just tell us and then we see them next month in the house. They're not there. They're not with us anymore. They're telling the truth. Versus some of the contractors and other things we've seen where the moms and grandmas have died 4-5 times and they can't work. But
it makes it difficult for you to have sympathy.
It does.
It really does make it, and that's what I don't like about managing. That's why I hire property managers, because I don't like what that brings out of me. The fact that, I'm having a hard time appreciating the fact that there is a death in your family, because why are you telling me that? You're just telling me that because you won't have my money for rent.
And I heard a tip, and I thought this is a really good way to do it. And I've socked away. I've asked or used it before. Yeah. And if someone says, my mother passed, and I said, well, where are the arrangements being held? I'd like to send an arrangement, like send some flowers.
Yeah.
And if they can if they sent it to you, then they passed. You send flowers.
It's legit.
You know it's
what
legit.
I'm saying? And now you show yourself as someone who actually cares.
You sent flowers. They're going to tell their friends and family about it. And maybe it's flowers. Maybe it's a gift card, or maybe they were asking for something for the house, and you accommodate them. We've had cases before where somebody's told us, someone's passed away. We're going to have a hard time, getting rent this month because we got to pay for a funeral. And then we'll talk a little more. Well, what can we do? Could we do half a month this month? But it's time to renew the lease. How's the income going to be affected? You want to stay? You want to move something, one of our cheaper properties, smaller properties, or you want to stay where you are? And we redo the lease at a little higher amount. So we're making up for the amount that was lost during their transition time where the income's lower. And other times there's been cases where they're going to have life insurance money and they're able to pay for a funeral, and they say, well, hey, could we prepay the rent for the next 5-6 months? Sure. Yeah. We'll give you, work with you on that, and, or do that, or we can apply it for the next, year worth of rent. You pay half rent is, half the amount of rent for the next 12 months rather than nothing for 6 months and then the full amount for 6 months. So you see what works with their budget.
Right,
and try to
because
be firm but fair.
Because in your tenant, because in your mind, so just kind of put it in the mind of someone who is just living their life, like, my father had passed away and I still paid the mortgage that month. Like, it did not stop the mortgage from being paid. It created some other type of expenses that I incurred to help and send money back home to get some things addressed, and I totally get that. However, it did not stop the rent from being paid. Most emergencies do not stop your rent from being paid. I mean, now, are there exceptions to every rule? Of course there's some exceptions. Of course there's going to be issues. If there is a natural disaster, then that's going to create some issues. However, most of the excuses are just not, are not rising up to the level of you shouldn't have the rent when it's due. Because most people like yourself, and you're living your life and you pay your mortgage every month, things happen in our lives, but very few things can stop us from paying the mortgage. It would have to be something like, oh, okay, well, hey, it would have to be something really big. And so I really think that speaks volumes to some of the nasty tricks. So is that emotional blackmail? Is that more red flag or yellow flag?
I'd say it's yellow.
That's a little bit on the yellow flag that can turn easily into a red flag if you're not careful, right?
Speaking about flags, we got a green flag. Tell us
yes,
about today.
we do. Yes, we do. And so are you ready to flip your first house or finally flip one the right way? Then join us at Flip Savvy, Louisville's top real estate flipping workshop, led by yours truly. I am an award-winning realtor that sold over 200 homes in the local Louisville area, and I teach you how to find, flip properties for maximum profit using our methodology and frameworks. And visit flipsavvycourse.com. That's flipsavvycourse.com to learn about the next class that's coming up today.
All right. So this next topic, I want to lead into this because my friend, I don't know him that well.
You know what? Where's the red flag?
It's right here. I'm going to hold on to it so you don't get to hold it.
You get to hold on to it.
I'll call this one the shaggy flag. There's the shaggy. It wasn't me. The damage is the damage denial. It wasn't me, or it was already like that, or it's normal wear and tear.
Right.
The tenant moves out and claims any property damage was pre-existing, or it was ordinary wear and tear. And ways you protect yourself with this is you have move-in inspections, and you have videos and pictures, and you have them sign that everything was in good shape, everything was in working order, the utilities were on, the light bulbs were in, the appliances all worked, no windows were cracked, broken, chipped, anything. So then when they move out, and then you go back and you take your pictures after they moved out or while they're moving out, and you see, this window is cracked right by the back door is scratched all up because the dog was trying to get in or out. These are things that weren't there before, and
was messed up when I moved in.
It was a brand new door.
It was messed up.
We just built the house. Nobody lived in the house before you did. We know there was nobody before you. You can't claim Shaggy. It wasn't me.
Right.
It was the dog.
Right.
But a dog is part of your family, so we have to allow or.
So do you have a sheet? So what we can do is we can even provide a sheet for you. You reach out to us. You comment you put in the comments that you want a move-in checklist. We can provide that for you. Not a problem. You have a move-in checklist that you use that we go through. That you're like, okay, look. What's the condition of the exterior? What's the condition of the interior? What's the condition? Was there washer and dryer on site? What are all the things that are going on at this particular property at time of move-in? And you're making the tenant sign off on the fact that things are in a particular condition. And if there is something wrong during the inspection, okay, look, we need to get that addressed immediately and then come back, and then we'll come back and have you sign that.
Yeah, you can make a note on it. You're going through the house and look at everything. You flip a switch and the light turns on, but the exhaust fan doesn't. Oh, well, tenant didn't do that. Exhaust fan, inoperable, service call needed, or repair guy will be here tomorrow. Here's the number. Here's his name. We'll get right on that. We'll just replace it. But we're making a note of it now because you didn't. The light worked, but the fan didn't when you moved in. So we'll get it fixed.
Exactly. And then remember, if something is messed up, you need to handle that with great speed and take care of business and be really on top of it, right? Because and that's one of the reasons why I have talent on standby and on speed dial. I'm like, hey, can you take care of this? Because bottom line, I want nothing and you want absolutely nothing to get in the way of your check coming in every month, right? So deal with it fast, because guess what? You want your money on time. So take care of the problems and issues when they occur in a timely manner, right? Because now they're thinking, well, you know what? These people really take care of me on time. They're Johnny on the spot when it's time to get something done. And so they expect their money on time.
And document it, because sometimes you will have a case where tenant says, oh, I'm going to be out of town, or you can fix it next week, or I've got company over. If they say they want to wait, document it, or have them text it to you or put it in writing so they can't say, oh, it took you 4 days to get over here.
Right.
And if you send a repair person over there and the tenant doesn't show up or forgets about it or doesn't let the repair person in, have the repair person document that, because it could come back where the tenant tries to withhold rent or say, oh, you didn't fix anything, but it's the tenant not letting us in. Because in our state, we've got to give them, get permission or coordinate that stuff. And if they don't let us in, we don't want to just go barging into someone's home where they could have animals out. They could have something dangerous. They could have a cat escape, and we open the door. We don't want to cause any damage or invade their privacy at all. But
that's definitely true. So basically, we're at number 7, and the other one was a clear red flag. I mean, we're at number 7, and so that number 7 is really a really nasty one. It's a real nasty one, and we're going to talk about the next one right after this break. So running a business is hard enough. You shouldn't have to be an editor, an actor, brand strategist. Let our good friends over at Bespoke Marketing take care of all those details for you so you can do what you do best, and that's running your business. Go to bespokemarketing.org and reach out to them and tell them the Investor Tribe sent you. Also, you can reach out to them online. Again, bespokemarketing.org. And Bespoke Marketing, connections tailor-made. So here is the 7th nasty trick that I think we touched on it before.
A little bit. Yep.
We did touch on it before, but it's the roommate switcheroo. It's literally the roommate switcheroo. And it's like, why are people dishonest about who is living with them? Like, I don't get that. Like, I don't understand. Like, do you have I don't get it.
I've got some thoughts, and I've also parts of some groups, online that are for tenants, and there's people advertising their services. Well, we'll help you get into a property, or we'll co-sign.
That's right. We'll co-sign.
There's people out there that maybe have bad credit, or they've got evictions. They wouldn't normally qualify for a place on their own, and so they're using illegal or underhanded methods to get into a property. And then the poor, landlord or property manager is expecting, Jim Smith to be the payer and the occupant. And then they go there and it's Jane Doe. They don't know this lady, and they don't know where she works and what she, does and how she got there. But all of a sudden Jim's gone and Jane's there. And now the landlord, they have to figure out, do we do a new lease? Do we kick this person out? What's going on? How did you get here? Because they pulled the old roommate switcheroo.
They did. And you know what? I mean, basically, what we started doing is requiring all of the occupants to be approved.
If they're over age 18 or,
Yes,
again,
all the adult occupants must be approved, right? And we have to schedule. Everything can be done if you are visiting the property at least 2 to 3 times a year. You can handle that. But if you haven't been to your property in about 6, 9, 12, 15 months, you don't know what they're doing to your property.
Or who's there, what animals are there.
What animals are there. They're living all kinds of life, and you have zero idea. That's a red flag. That's a
Big red flag.
there. Big red flag. Let's go ahead and what we'll do is I do think that there is some. Is that one more nasty trick? Do we don't have no more nasty tricks? Did we run through all of them? Yes. The ghost tenant is another one where the tenant tends to abandon the property without warning mid-lease and they're behind on rent. I think that there is a lot of nasty tricks. And so what we're going to do is, it sounds like we got to have a part 2.
Yes.
We got to have a part 2 to the nasty tricks. And so...
And also share with us any of the tricks that have been run on you, or any advice, anything.
Leave those in the comments.
Any horror stories you've got, and how we can educate other landlords how to avoid those. And then watch out for those yellow and red flags before it gets too far down the road, or you lose too much money or too much time, and then grow those gray hairs.
And you know what?
That frustration.
I know. And you know what? What solves a lot of this. What solves a lot of these issues is the due diligence that you take on beforehand. Ultimately, you must take responsibility. Yes, these are nasty tricks. Yes, these are terrible things. Yes, they can happen to you. Ultimately, you are responsible for your rental property.
If you manage the property, you think, oh gosh, I've got bad tenants. Ask yourself, who put that tenant in there? And then you got to look in the mirror,
right?
Unless they did a roommate switcheroo,
or even if you bought the property like I did. I mean, I inherited tenants. We inherit tenants all the time. Yeah. But bottom line is, you at some point you want to make sure that you're doing the due diligence. Don't look at it because you think it's a great deal. Really take a really good look at what the tenant situation is like.
As well as the property. Yes.
As well as the property, right? And I'm Milton Ali.
And I'm Hampton Scurlock.
And we'll catch you on the flip side of the Investor Tribe.
The Investor Tribe podcast is brought to you by the Investor Tribe, all rights reserved, featuring Hampton Scurlock and Milton Ali, executive producer Drew Cookenmaster, produced and distributed by Bespoke Marketing.